Good Monday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls. I think everyone across the eastern United States is talking about the wildfire smoke because for a lot of us, it's been noticeable enough to where we see it in the sky, but for many, it's been enough to impact us down at the surface. Places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan have been dealing with at least poor air quality in some portions of the area because of the Canadian wildfires. And unfortunately, for those of you that are sensitive to the wildfire smoke in the atmosphere, it's not going to let up for another day or so. So take a look here at our Futurecast smoke model. And what this is showing you is it's not just us here in the Great Lakes region that's dealing with it. Do you see that gray shading? That goes all the way down to the Gulf Coast, down into portions of Texas, Louisiana, portions of Florida have been dealing with the smoke all associated with those Canadian wildfires. And the reason for that is we've had a really strong upper level low pressure system for a long time. Now we're dealing with another low pressure system and northwesterly winds trying to bring down some of that smoke across the upper levels. But if we take things throughout the next couple of days here, you'll notice going into tomorrow in the morning hours, we are kind of shaded in that gray shading here in the Chicagoland area. What that means is that we're going to have conditions very similar to what today looked like. We're going to have those milky, hazy skies outside during the morning, the midday hours, but then potentially during the late afternoon into the evening hours, you see how this yellow shading is beginning to work its way back into the region again? That's some denser smoke that's going to be possible in our atmosphere by the end of the day tomorrow. And we have a slight chance of seeing a couple showers, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder tomorrow afternoon and evening, and some of that could potentially bring that smoke down to the surface. And that's all associated with a cold front that's going to be moving our way. And as it moves through, it's going to be hopefully kind of washing some of that smoke out of here. But do you see that stripe of yellow that's just north of us through Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan, back into Iowa, and then down into Missouri? That's some fairly dense smoke, so that could potentially work its way back into the Chicagoland area going into the later half of this week. So it's something that we're going to be watching for, but for those of you that are sensitive to the smoke in the air, hopefully you're going to be feeling some relief by the middle portion of this week when we should get a break from that smoke on Wednesday. Let's turn the clocks back a little bit here. Let's talk about the month of May because, of course, now it is June 2nd. We are officially the second day into meteorological summer. But spring, I'm sure, the talk for a lot of people has been about how cool the month of May was. We had that 1 week that was really beautiful in the middle of the month. So notice from the 11th through the 16th, we had several days that were above average. And all of the colors that you're seeing here on this calendar, blue, that's representing cooler than average temperatures. Gray is representing near normal. And then either the orange and the red, that's representing near to above average, if not way above average. So we actually had a record high temperature in the month of May, and that was on the 15th with a high of 94 degrees. But that was very short-lived because for the last 2 weeks of May, we went back to cooler than average temperatures. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, right? We've all been experiencing it. It's felt like kind of a sad spring for a lot of us, I think, because it has been so cool, especially closer to the lakefront, because we had east or northeasterly winds almost every single day for the second half of that month. That's why it was so cold. We had those cold winds coming right in off of Lake Michigan. So let's dive in a little bit deeper to these stats on how May stacked up. So the average temperature came in at 58 degrees. Now, I know if you're thinking about the month of May, that doesn't sound too bad, right? That's the average. That's your highs and your lows kind of averaged together. But that's still 2.6 degrees below average, even with that really hot week that we had. And when it comes to precipitation, we were well below average. So we only picked up 1.35 inches of rainfall at O'Hare throughout the entire month of May. That's more than 3 inches below what's considered to be average. And if you're looking at meteorological spring, which is the months of March, April, and May, we came in at about 7 inches. I know that sounds like a lot of rain, but believe it or not, that too is almost 3.7 inches below normal. So it's not surprising when we're talking about drought conditions that that's what we're dealing with here across the Chicagoland area. Over the last 3 months, we've come in almost 4 inches below normal when it comes to our rainfall. So the latest drought monitor is showing that the majority of us are in that moderate drought. And unfortunately, even with rain in the forecast for the next couple of days, it's not going to be a soaker like what we need. It's not going to be a drought buster. So I think we're still going to be stuck with these conditions lasting through at least this week, but likely into next week too. It really takes a while to dig out of drought-like conditions. Now, zooming things way out, so the worst of it, of course, is still across the southern and southwestern border. So you can see all the way from Vegas down into Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, down into Texas, all of that red shading that you're seeing here, that's extreme or exceptional drought. So fortunately, we're not dealing with anything like that here at home in the Chicagoland area or even in the Great Lakes region, but still, we could really use the rain around here. Now, let's talk about temperatures, because finally, today was a gorgeous day for a lot of us. What I want you to focus on this map is pick out all of the oranges and the reds. And what you're going to find is it kind of swoops down through California and then rises all the way to the north to places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, the UP, and then back down toward Florida. So this is called a ridge. So we have a ridge of high pressure that we've been enjoying, and that's been bringing in this warmer air out of the south. So that's why we had temperatures that were well into the 80s here at home. If you look at the Futurecast jet stream, it's the same thing, the same idea here. You're able to pick out where that jet stream is, and you can see that it's pretty far to our north. That's why we're able to tap into that warmer air. But watch what happens over the next couple of days. So that ridge is going to begin to kind of flatten out, and we call this zonal flow. So it's more of an east-west flow when it comes to your jet stream. And typically when we see that, you have near normal temperatures. You're not on the warm side or the cold side. So it looks like going into the later portion of this week, we're definitely going to be trending a little bit cooler, but it's going to be closer to what's considered to be average, because your high temperature that you experienced today in the Chicagoland area in the mid-80s, that is above average. Now, let's talk about the satellite and radar. So there's actually quite a bit going on this evening. Fortunately, not here at home. The Great Lakes region does seem to be fairly quiet. But off to our west, notice through the central plains, the upper Midwest, we do have that low pressure system as well as a cold front and also a little bit of a trough moving through. So that is sparking up some showers, some thunderstorms, and there's actually a couple strong to severe thunderstorms. We have multiple warnings. If we zoom things in, there's a severe thunderstorm watch stretching from portions of the panhandle of Texas, panhandle of Oklahoma, up into Kansas and into portions of Missouri, actually under the flood watch that you see there. But this severe thunderstorm watch, it extends to the north all the way into southern Minnesota. And that kind of gives us an idea of what we could be dealing with going into tomorrow as this system begins to march to the east. So if you zoom things in here on the severe weather outlook, this is put out by the Storm Prediction Center. So the yellow that you're seeing here, that's a slight risk. That's a level 2 of 5 on their severe risk scale, meaning scattered severe storms. That's exactly what we're seeing on the radar tonight. Watch what happens as I advance this into tomorrow. You'll notice that that slides to the east and it comes a little bit closer to Chicagoland. Most of northeastern Illinois is highlighted in a marginal risk. That's green shading here. That's a level 1 of 5, meaning isolated severe storms are going to be possible. But what are the hazards that we're concerned with? It's not going to be a severe weather outbreak for us tomorrow. We might see 1, maybe 2 strong or severe thunderstorms, and the main hazards look like it could be severe wind risk. So you'll notice that most of the area is highlighted in this brown shading here. That means there's a 5% risk of severe winds, meaning 60 miles per hour or higher. But what does that 5% really mean? Does it mean all of us have a 5% chance of seeing it? Not technically. So if you are highlighted in this brown shading here, what that means is that within 25 miles of any point that you were to choose, there is a 5% risk that within 25 miles of that point that you could be seeing severe wind gusts. I know that's a little confusing when you kind of boil it down of exactly what these probabilities mean, but it's the same terminology that we're using when we're talking about the tornado risk as well. So locations that you see here that are highlighted in green, this extends through LaSalle County, up into DeKalb County, northwestern Kane County, and into McHenry County and points west. This is a 2% tornado risk. So within 25 miles of any point that you were to choose on this green shading here, there is a 2% risk that you could see tornadoes tomorrow evening. Now, our threat locally, it does appear like it's going to drop off as the night moves on. So that's wonderful news for us. I will time out all of those storms coming up for you right after this break. Welcome back. All right, looking at Futurecast here, we have a low pressure system that's off to our west as well as a cold front that's going to begin to move eastward tonight and into our day tomorrow, and that eventually is going to be bringing us the chance of seeing some rain here in the Chicagoland area, which we desperately need. But unfortunately, again, this isn't going to be a drought buster for us. So let's go ahead. We'll set this in motion here, taking us through tonight and into early tomorrow. Notice the wind direction. is still going to be out of the south, so it's bringing in that warmer air. Tomorrow's actually going to end up even warmer than what we experienced today. So if you like the heat, I think you're going to love the forecast tomorrow. Mid to upper 80s expected, and the humidity levels, those should stay fairly low as well. Now, when it comes to rain chances, I think daytime hours looking pretty good. We might see a stray shower or two throughout the afternoon, but you'll notice it's not until the evening hours that frontal boundary gets a little bit closer to us. We could be seeing some heavier downpours, potentially some gusty winds, and we'll have to watch for the potential of a brief spin-up tornado being possible across the far western sections of the viewing area. Again, for those of you in portions of LaSalle, DeKalb, Kane, and McHenry counties, that's where we are highlighted in that 2% risk from the Storm Prediction Center. But the worst of it really does appear to stay to our west. Through the night and into early on Wednesday, we still have rain coming down. So unfortunately, for those of you that may have plans on Wednesday, you might not love that in the forecast. But from a drought perspective, this is a really good thing. Hopefully we're able to pick up a decent amount, taking us into Wednesday morning. By Wednesday midday, we're going to be drying things out, and then throughout the afternoon, that cold front's going to make a really big difference. So what you're going to see on our temperature outlook is that it still looks decently warm on Wednesday with highs right around 70 degrees. That's coming with a catch. I'll show you that in just a moment. But first, your daily almanac. 83 degrees is what we made it to at O'Hare. Your average high temperature for this time of the year is 76 degrees. So, of course, we were above that, but we did not come close to the record. That was 94 degrees. The next 10 days around here, tomorrow's our hot day. Upper 80s expected, but still fairly low humidity. Then we drop back to the 70s. So on Wednesday, that high temperature of 70 degrees, that's going to be set at midnight. But during the daytime hours, I think we're only going to be in the 50s and 60s, and we're still going to have rain coming down throughout the morning and the midday hours. So it is going to be a cooler day on Wednesday, a little bit of a shock to the system after we had temperatures in the 80s. And then we're going to be near normal, taking us through the end of the week, into the weekend, and then next week, looks like we could potentially be on for another hot one in the 80s. Water temperatures, if you are thinking of heading out to the beach, just be careful in the water. You're going to have to really limit your time because water temperatures are only in the 50s. In Chicago, it was at 58 degrees this morning. Tonight, 66 degrees. We will have south winds right around 5 to 15 miles per hour. And the hazy skies that we had today because of that wildfire smoke, that's going to linger through tonight and then likely through the day tomorrow as well. Your forecast high temperatures for tomorrow, mid to upper 80s. It is going to be very warm, but once again, the humidity, that's going to remain in check. We don't have to worry about that too much. Your 5-day forecast tomorrow, 88 degrees, 70 degrees expected on Wednesday. But remember, that's going to be during the morning hours. Then we'll drop into the 50s and 60s, and then we are in the low 70s to round out the week. Around 9 p.m., we will see you with your full forecast, including your 7-day. We'll see you then.